been a yellow filter, not until season 3 at least. So why did they decide to put it in this season? I thought of it at first as another way to determine the two different timelines, and I will say the filter is a lot easier to see when the scenes are in the daylight. The present timeline in this season does not have this filter at all, so it's gotta be some sort of reason that we only see it in the past. I personally think there are multiple reasons that we see it, so let's try to break it down. Since episode 3, after they were all having those hallucinations, Coach tells everyone it's poisonous gas. So I looked up natural gases that can cause hallucinations, and I found that hydrogen, if you breathe it in at high pressures, that it could make you hallucinate and cause you to go through other symptoms as well. And I found that it can be produced by different processes within the Earth's crust and mantle. Also, the gas can be found underground. They extract it just like they do with oil, and the gas can also seep through the ground. So maybe the filter could be there to explain, since they had to move from the cabin, they are probably in an area where they are all being affected by this gas, and that cave is the source of it. It also could be like a plot device to represent that this might not be exactly what's going on right now in the show when we see them in the past timeline, and the show could be trying to tell us through the filter, or even from what we've seen, that this is how they're coping with the situation that they're in. They view it as everything being good. The filter could also just be used to show how after the hellish winter that they all lived through, we see now that they are thriving and surviving. It seems that they're in a better spot, so it could be used to just show how now it's more easygoing and maybe taking a lighter tone compared to when they were living in the cabin, because we see them playing catch the bone in the first episode, and they never really did anything like that, at least during the winter or even the first season as well. So it does seem like that they're all in a better spot. And this also could be due to Van's stories that she spins about the Yellowjackets, and it makes them seem like they're in fairy tales or fables, and it turns them into heroes. And also, Shauna doesn't really buy into the story, so I don't really understand why they show the filter on her if this is the case, but it makes me think that this is probably not the case. But at some point, if this is the case, I think all of that will fall through. Maybe they lose all of their food and then have to resort to eating people again, and then the filter will probably be gone because they had to go back to living harshly again, just like they did when they were in the winter months. And I want to do at least one supernatural theory, but I put out a video talking about how the trees that Van and Dark Tide mark could be the territory of whatever has a hold on them. When they had to move, they could have pushed deeper into the heart of the area, so maybe now the wilderness is able to have a hold on them even better, and even able to communicate and intervene easier as well. That could be another reason we see the filter. It could be to tell us that they might be in the main domain of whatever it could be that's inhabiting the forest or controlling it. But what do you all think? Is it just all in their minds, like everything from their new huts and even their food that they have, or are they just all tripping out thinking that this is happening but really not? I don't know. There are a lot of reasons to why I seem that's unlikely to me, especially because of some of the things that we see in the modern timeline. But thanks for watching, everyone. Nation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. So I want to focus on Taissa first. She has some examples proving that the show could be either, but I want to talk about the man with no eyes first. In my last video, I talked about how when Ty's grandma died, Ty started to see the man as well, and this could be an actual manifestation of something evil or non-evil, something definitely of a higher presence, but rather than being her psyche. But seeing her grandmother die and then seeing her again laying in their casket at the funeral, it probably was very traumatic for her at that age, and now she'd be seeing the man with no eyes again. And back then when she was a kid, because of her grandma did explain to her what it looked like, and she saw him there as she died, so maybe she relates to death, the man with no eyes, and whenever she's in situations of high stress or trauma, whenever she dissociates, that could be the reason why she sees him. But now here is when I can't really explain what was going on. When Ty was having her dark episodes, but while she was sleepwalking at night in the wilderness, Van followed her and mapped all the trees that she would follow, and those were marked trees and all of those trees mapped out a larger wilderness symbol as well. So I don't really know how to explain how she was able to do that all and find all the trees like that coincidentally. And they also find Javi while they were out looking for trees as well. But I can't really think of a reason of how she was able to locate all of those trees and even able to coincidentally find Javi as well. And that is why I think that it was a supernatural occurrence for that time. Now, Lottie has a lot of interesting events that have happened with her character, and I'll say most of them I think are supernatural. But let's start with her in the present timeline. We know that she has been sent to a psychiatric facility. They did electrotherapy on her because of the things that she went through when they were in the wilderness, and she was even able to communicate, which also led her to being sent there as well. But young Lottie does talk about how she ran out of her medicine while being stuck in the wilderness, and that could be another reason why all of this has happened to her. And also it could be the reasons why she treated the wilderness as like a person and offered the bear's heart to it and stuff like that. And she could have had schizophrenia. I'm not sure if they ever really disclose what was really going on with her, but I think for some of her cases, we can chalk it up to not being supernatural. But personally, except for the time when she seemingly gets possessed by the cabin daddy, and we have been speculating that he could be a French Canadian, and that would be the reason why she started to speak French right after that. And also, she spoke it pretty fluently, and for the level that she was speaking it at, I don't think that you can acquire that in a high school class. So it does seem like maybe that was a supernatural event in the show. But now in the present timeline, adult Lottie has made a wellness center of her own, and she also treats people there. Adult Lottie also has strange visions, and they happen more than once, and it seems the show implies that her therapist is not a real or alive either, and that could be all because that maybe she's not taking her medicine, and if it is schizophrenia, that could be acting up again. And I wouldn't just go and say that was supernatural. It could be her mind just doing that to her. And lastly, the bear, when Lottie was taking a walk on her own, it just approached her and it offered her its life basically. And now I don't know how else you can really explain it. Maybe the bear was sick and just couldn't move anymore. But really, I like to think that bears would still attack if they were provoked even while they were sick. So I do think that this probably was something supernatural going on. I don't really know how it's explained why the bear did that. But yeah, continuing on, let's go to Shauna now. She, out of everybody, seems to have the most normal storyline in the show, but we know that she hallucinated that Jackie was still alive for a little bit of while, and she even does this in the present timeline as well. And I do think that is like a coping mechanism that she could be using, because she still feels bad for forcing Jackie leaving the hut that one time, and which made her freeze to death. And it might feel like Jackie's haunting her, but I think that is definitely all in her mind. There are also some weird visions that she had about her kid when she was pregnant with it, and she would see it as a whole chicken that everyone was ripping apart and eat it. And then she also saw another vision of when she had the baby that everyone was just eating it, and you can see blood covers all of their faces as well. And they probably were all seeing that because they were hungry. I don't think anything was supernatural was going on either. And especially Shauna, she probably was freaking out like that because she had to carry the baby, which probably made her a little bit more hungrier than other people as well. So for the most part, I think that Shauna has no supernatural stuff going on with her. I think she's just, has a little bit of a hard time throughout her life that we see in this story. And the same thing can be said with Aquila as well, and her mouse. She thinks it's alive, and she has been feeding it and hiding it from everyone so they don't try to eat the mouse. But eventually someone does tell her that the mouse is dead, and she realizes that she has been carrying around a dead mouse. So I do think that she was thinking that the mouse was alive too, like hallucinating it as well. I don't think anything supernatural was going on there either. Now, Mari has some weird things going on too. She talks about how she can hear it dripping in the attic or the ceiling of the hut, and no one could really hear it except for the one time Ty did. But she also had the time where she thought spiders were crawling all over her. So this could possibly just be a reaction to being a lot of stress under a tremendous amount of it, and they've been there surviving for a little bit of while, so every day could probably take its toll. And I also don't think that this moment was supernatural either. But Jackie's vision is a little strange to me though. She sees Laura Lee and the cabin daddy, and we know Laura Lee has died at this point, and I can't think of a genuine reason of why she would be hallucinating these people, because the Cabin Daddy is literally no one to her, and Laura Lee, she wasn't really that close with her. The only one that she seemed super close to was Shauna, so why wouldn't she see her or even her boyfriend at the time? But I do think that something supernatural was happening here. I think that Cabin Daddy showed himself to her, or she was able to see them because she had died. But let me know what you guys think about that one. I personally do think that it was a supernatural. The beginning of season 3, there is that scene where Ty and Van go out on a dinner date. After eating, they decide to dine and dash, and the waiter chases after them, but as he's running, he suddenly collapses and starts to seize. In the next episode, we found out that the waiter had a heart attack and died, and that could just be due to underlying health issues, but it gets weird when you notice that the man with no eyes appears in the same scenes. That makes me wonder, did Ty or Dark Ty somehow cause his death? We know her darker half was in control during this time, and things always get unpredictable when that side takes over. On top of that, it turns out that after the waiter dies, Van's cancer begins to go into remission. That detail felt too deliberate to be a coincidence. Could it be a reward from the wilderness, or is it connected to the man with no eyes? Some kind of entity that trades life for life? It raises the question, is the supernatural still at play, just in subtle ways? Then we've got Akila's dream sequence. She sees Coach Ben acting as a bridge between civilization and the wilderness. At the time, it seems symbolic, but looking back, it's eerie after Ben's death. When the group fully commits to the feeding ritual, they are suddenly discovered by the scientists. They hear them and even smell their cooking, and that timing feels like more than a coincidence. Did the wilderness allow them to be found only after they gave in completely? And let's talk about that bear Akila sees in her vision. At first, I thought it might be a representation of Cody, especially since it attacks their little village in the vision. But now I think the bear actually represents Akila herself. The bear opens a third eye, and Akila is doing something similar by helping Lottie see through the cave rituals and visions by using the cave to hallucinate. Whether it's supernatural or psychological, it still plays a huge role in their belief system and survival. So overall, while the show seems to be leaning away from overt supernatural events, I don't think it's completely gone. The screaming that they would hear in the beginning of the season was revealed to be harpy frogs, I think is what they were called, in their mating season. And I will say, I'm not sure how loud these frogs are, but they were able to hear them from like the top of the trees if they were the frog. And also the scientists Edwin and Hannah were using a microphone to hear them when they were mating. But the Yellowjackets could just hear them because they could be louder than what I was expecting, at least. But they then explained that the visions that they were having in the beginning of the season were because of the gas that was filling the cave. So that is, I thought, was supernatural, but it has been debunked as well. But yeah, a lot of things in this season did get debunked to not being supernatural, but they are still a lot of things that were weird to and hard to explain, like Van being on the cell phone with normal Ty back in the adult timeline while the darkness was over the Ty. It was like she was talking to her other normal self in the cell phone. And I say it's weird because we can see Ty like banging on the door or walking in as Van was talking to Ty. And also Ty makes a man have a heart attack in the season 3 early in the season as well by just being in his proximity. And there are still a lot of weird events from the previous seasons, like when the bear gave himself up, and also when we see the man with no eyes. I still think something could be supernatural about him, but what do you all think? And then there's the scenes where the screen glitches. I'm not sure if they're trying to make those scenes supernatural or if the characters are having like a mental breakdown. You guys let me know. But yeah, most things that have been debunked in the show that were supernatural are not. So we'll have to see if they give us any more supernatural things happen in season 4. And we also have not gotten any answers for the Cabin Daddy as well. And we also don't know why Ty still sees and channels the man with no eyes. But what am I missing from season 3? Let me know. And as always, leave a comment, like, and subscribe.